友情篇、心灵篇。与的真草谈来到自己身边的人和事。
Discussing with Dezhen Celestial the people and events that enter one's life. Xiefeng. January 27th, 2023. Translation edited by Qin Yu. Some say, the people and events that enter our lives are there to fulfill us. I say that the true, good, beautiful, loving, trustworthy, and sincere individuals and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us. Conversely, the fake, evil, ugly, hateful, deceitful, and hollow individuals and events that enter our lives are there to pull us towards hell. Dezhen Celestial believes that if the viewpoint, the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us is invalid, is incorrect, consequently, the Chanyuan value of the world is faultless. All faults lie within us is also invalid and mistaken. She further explains that beautiful things can fulfill us because a part of our soul is inherently good and kind. Similarly, ugly things can also fulfill us as they reveal the parts of our soul needing rectification. We no longer oppose the external world but introspectively correct ourselves. In doing so, the fulfillment gained in that moment stands firm. Dezhen Celestial's inclination to present different or even opposing viewpoints, stemming from thoughtful analysis, deserves recognition and praise. Only truths entirely comprehended can become guiding principles and beliefs one consciously and willingly acts upon in their life's journey. Any truth not understood, regardless of its correctness, becomes a stepping stone easily discarded when faced with personal interests and turmoil. Regarding whether all the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us, I've analyzed and negated this perspective in my article, Are the People and Events That Come Into Your Life Meant to Fulfill You? Now, let's discuss whether rejecting this viewpoint also rejects the Chanyuan value of the world is faultless. All faults lie within us. Old Wang called little Lu, informing him of a quick opportunity to amass wealth. Excitedly, little Lu requested a meeting. After the meeting, Old Wang advised little Lu to sell his house to invest in the overnight wealth global financial company, promising a doubling of profits within a year with a $100,000 investment. Overwhelmed by excitement, little Lu invested $1 million, dreaming of turning it into $2 million in a year, so that he no longer needs to work, but merely to reap profits. However, a year later, not only did little Lu not gain any profit, but he could not even retrieve the initial investment. The overnight wealth global financial company had collapsed, and the CEO vanished with everyone's investments. Now, we must ask, are the people who come into our lives there to fulfill us, or do they lead us into suffering? Furthermore, where does the fault lie? Is it with the overnight wealth financial company, Old Wang, or is it within little Lu himself? So, Dezhen Celestial, in presenting such a straightforward example, do you believe that rejecting the viewpoint that the people and events that come into our lives are there to fulfill us simultaneously rejects the value of the world is faultless? All faults lie within us? Clearly not. The overnight wealth global financial company is not at fault. They indeed amassed wealth overnight. Old Wang is not at fault. He gained some benefits. The fault lies within little Lu, blinded by greed, wanting something for nothing, wanting the moon. Beautiful things can fulfill us. Ugly things can also fulfill us. This is Dezhen Celestial's perspective, and I admit it's valid. Many ugly things can serve as negative examples, teaching us how to properly handle the people and events that come into our lives. In this regard, ugly things can fulfill a person. For instance, Old Wang's arrival and the investment fulfilled little Lu by teaching him a lesson. He no longer dreams of getting rich overnight but lives a grounded life. Yet, I ask the reader, do you wish to be like little Lu, losing everything? Do you want such an ugly event to fulfill you? If you do, then we're not on the same wavelength. It's futile to say more. I can only wish that ugly people and events accompany your life extensively, fulfilling you. If you do not, then why not? Didn't you say that ugly things can also fulfill you? If ugly things can fulfill you, why do you not welcome them daily? Evidently, ugly people and events don't fulfill us. They corrupt us. Many people, driven by ugly people and events, commit suicide. Do we then believe that these ugly people and events finally fulfilled those individuals by leading them to suicide? Should we be grateful to the ugly people and events? Can beautiful people and events lead someone to suicide? Remember, ugly people and events only corrupt, not fulfill. If one cannot grasp this fundamental understanding, barbarism, fatuity, ignorance, and darkness will accompany their life journey. Why seek light, civilization, justice, kindness, or paradise? Hell is so ugly. Why not dwell there, since even the ugly can fulfill you?
当你执着于自己的观点正确时，矛盾诞生了。
When you cling to the correctness of your viewpoint, contradictions arise. Xiefeng. May 29, 2023. Translation edited by Qin Yu. Have you ever experienced this? Working together with others, facing a decision, where you staunchly support Plan A while others insist on Plan B. If both refuse to compromise, conflicts arise. Anger and negative emotions swirl like a tornado, leaving both parties feeling depressed and joyless for days on end. Why is the divorce rate so high nowadays? One primary reason is when each side believes they are right and adamantly refuses to yield, eventually leading to parting ways. In business partnerships or companies, closures often arise due to partners rigidly adhering to their views, refusing to compromise. Even between nations, divergent viewpoints without compromise escalate to disagreements or even cold wars. Wherever people gather, whether in partnerships of two or collaborations involving hundreds or even tens of thousands, if everyone clings to their own views without compromise, conflicts and clashes are inevitable. Therefore, we find that those fervently clinging to their viewpoints are the ones who spark conflicts and discord, preventing themselves and their collaborators from working harmoniously together. From this, we can conclude that those who cling to their viewpoints lack understanding, reason, open-mindedness, and possess low emotional intelligence. The ones who make others happy, joyful, and free while working together are the ones with high emotional intelligence, the ones who understand reason, the ones who comprehend life's principles, the extraordinary individuals. How can one ensure that others are happy, joyous, and free while working with him? In a task, whoever is responsible has the final say. Even if you are right 1,000 times and the person in charge is wrong 1,000 times, you must abide by their decision. No doubts, no entanglements, no silent protests, no passive resistance, just wholehearted cooperation. This leads to mutual happiness. If there is no designated leader in a collaboration, when someone proposes a plan instead of discussing it, respond with, "All right, we'll do it your way." This avoids the birth of conflict, and if things go wrong, the one suggesting the plan shoulders the blame. Respecting others means not clinging obstinately to one's own opinions. Insisting on others following your ideas is disrespect. Consider, when you cease to exist, the earth will continue turning, and others will go on living. Would you still cling to your viewpoints? When working with others, if you can make them happy, you're someone who understands life's principles, an extraordinary individual, someone who comprehends reason, a seed of paradise. Try and see if you're someone who brings joy to others. When someone says, "Dog excrement smells lovely," if you immediately counter, "No, it stinks," you're rigid and lack emotional intelligence. However, if you follow up with, "Yes, indeed, dog excrement smells much better than night-blooming jasmine," you possess high emotional intelligence and understanding. When someone says, "The grassland is excellent, but the forest is not," or "Putting on shoes before socks looks better," or "Slimmer women are more sensual," Or, being a son is much better than being a grandfather. How do you respond?
我的个人生老病死观及交代。
My personal views on life, aging, sickness, and death, and instructions. Xiefeng. May 30th, 2023. Translation edited by Qin Yu. When I safely reached the age of 60, I deeply appreciated the grace bestowed upon me by the ancestor of Buddha, the greatest creator. Life is fraught with constant dangers and uncertainties. Thus, reaching 60 unharmed is considered a great destiny. My heart is filled only with gratitude towards the Creator. Life, aging, illness, and death are natural laws. Everyone has their own perspective on dealing with these. Here are my views. 60 marks the completion of one's life cycle, indicating that by the age of 60, one has eaten what they should, heard what they should, seen what they should, and experienced all they needed to. With life's journey deemed fulfilled, it is time to gracefully accept nature's course and embark on the next journey. If diagnosed with a terminal illness, I will not seek treatment. If a cerebral hemorrhage causes me to lose consciousness, I adamantly refuse and oppose any resuscitation efforts. I've lived a fulfilling life with no regrets. I eagerly anticipate the place I'll go after death. Bringing me back to this world would be cruel. After my death, if anyone is around, I hope they cheerfully cremate me, scatter my ashes as they wish. I arrived empty-handed and will depart the same way. Everything I possess belongs to the second home. Therefore, let everything return to the home. No memorials, monuments, or tombstones are needed. Let me dissipate in the wind while everyone eats, drinks, sings, and dances. Life is a dream. When we wake, it's all gone. I owe nothing to anyone, and no one owes me. This is my dignity as a living being. If afflicted by an incurable illness, I'll utilize the Chanyuan meditation method to depart swiftly. People are not responsible for taking care of me, and I don't expect anyone to tend to me in sickness. That would strip me of my dignity as a living being, devalue my existence, and further incur debts. I don't wish to owe debts and return to this world again. I've established theories and models for a new human way of life. If anyone benefits from it, it's not my achievement. It's the grace of the ancestor Buddha, the greatest creator, and the guidance of gods, Buddhas, celestials, and saints, and the collective wisdom of past sages through tireless efforts. All glory goes to the divine and wise. I merely played a small role doing what I should. Don't praise me. My reward is sufficient to fill my heart with gratitude. So please, do not regard me as someone deserving of praise or honor. I'm not worthy of any acclaim. People desire longevity, wishing to live to 1 or 10,000. While it's a common desire, I don't aspire for longevity. Since turning 60, I joyfully accept life's end anytime, anywhere. I have no desire to reach 100. I don't want technological or medical advancements to prolong my life. I reject organ transplants and blood transfusions. Let me finish my life journey following nature's rhythm. If I lie sick and unattended, I will not blame anyone. I have done my best for my child, never expecting him to care for me in my old age. Modern young people are already burdened enough. I don't wish to be a burden on his life's journey. If my child can live happily, that is the greatest filial piety and respect for me. I don't expect him or anyone else to take care of me in my old age. So, to anyone who knows me, don't harbor any guilt in your heart because no one owes me anything, and I haven't done anything for anyone. I joyfully accept whatever outcome nature has in store for me. I have one wish. If circumstances allow, I hope those affectionate and capable enough would take care of a Huang in her later years if I depart before her. She's given her all to Life Chanyuan, the construction of the second home, possessing no personal wealth. If Life Chanyuan persists, I hope everyone living in the second home treats her kindly. I persist in living because I believe I still hold value. The day I become a burden to those living, rather than being of value, is the day I suffer with every passing moment. I'd rather seek an end to this journey sooner than prolong suffering and move on to the next path. Craving life is a natural human inclination, entirely acceptable and not subject to criticism. Yet, for those dedicated to enlightenment and spiritual ascension towards heaven, this desire can obstruct the path to achieving immortality or Buddhahood. Therefore, I choose not to crave life. If I am fortunate enough to embark early on the journey to heaven, it's a divine reward, an immense blessing. These are my personal views on life, aging, illness, and death, along with my instructions. I hope everyone understands and fulfills my wishes.
真善美人性的核心价值，生命禅院的人性观。
Truth, goodness, and beauty, the core value of human nature. The perspective of human nature, Life Chanuan. Shui Feng. The big world in our view is just an art form of truth, goodness, and beauty, but the real truth, goodness, and beauty is hidden among the dazzling art form. There is nothing strange for a piece of two-dimensional canvas, but after the painting of Maestro, this flat canvas can display multidimensional space. Hovering clouds during daylight, many peaks scattering in different distance, interspersed by the flowing water under the small bridges, people walking and birds flying. All those infuse people with a sense of truth, goodness, and beauty which characterized with distant quiet and vast infinite. However, let's take a deeper look and ask whether this is the truth, goodness, and beauty. Of course not, it's just an art form, and the real truth, goodness, and beauty is hidden in the back of the picture, in the artist's heart and mind. That is to say, the real beauty is hidden under the representation of art, and everything outside is just the external art manifestation of the hidden truth, goodness, and beauty. Similarly, people's truth, goodness, and beauty are concealed in human nature, and the outward appearance is just the artistic expression of the intrinsic truth, goodness, and beauty. We live in a fantasy art world. We flatter ourselves living truly. In fact, we are just some embellishments on the canvas of artists. As the pigment is washed off, the canvas will restore to a monotonous flat surface. After the change of time-space, the true of us will restore to our original life status quo, and then make a fresh start to another art form. People have 6 perceptions as vision, hearing, olfaction, taste, touch, and telegnosis, and the first 5 perceptions perceive the world by the media of artistic substances. What we perceive are just the external art forms of truth, goodness, and beauty, but not their essential characteristics. Only the telegnosis is able to surpass the artistic material platform to directly perceive the world of truth, goodness, and beauty.
艺术形态的本源就是真。
1. The origin of the art form is truth. Everything perceived by vision, hearing, olfaction, taste, touch are not truth but an art metamorphosis of it, and the real truth is implied at the origin of this artistic representation in the big world. Joe Smith wrote the word human on a blank sheet and then erased it. What did this process mean? This means that the word human on the blank sheet is not true, but a kind of artistic expression originating from the heart of Joe Smith. The real truth is not the word, but Joe Smith, the person. The word human will not appear on the blank sheet without the person Joe Smith. That means as long as Joe Smith exists, even if the word human is erased, but there will still be a word human. Is a flash in the pan true? Of course not. It is just another human written on a blank sheet and then being erased. It is just an artistic expression of truth hidden at the origin of epiphyllum, and its truth implies in the life structure of this plant. Is human true? Of course not. Human is just an artistic expression form in the life structure. Are bacteria, insects, vegetation, birds, and animals true? Of course not. They are just different artistic expression forms in the life structure. When we see the light of a lightning, the lightning is no longer in existence. When we look up at the stars at night, among those emitting light stars, some of them may have disappeared. When we watch those vivid characters on the video screen, some of the actors may have passed away. When we are complacent of what we own, does it ever occur to you that these things will soon pass out of existence? We live in a virtual reality, and actually what we have seen are all false. Those so-called illusory things, namely the things that the art world tries to express, are true. Visual truth is in line with the scientific and logical deduction, but it is very absurd in the philosophical sense. Standing on a point and going straight ahead, in the end one will unconsciously walk back to the start. Its essential effect equals to zero. Human society seems to be developing and moving to a higher stage of civilization. In fact, it is retracing its steps, and finally will return to the starting point. Winter passes and spring comes. Until the bumper fall passes, it will be back to winter again. For seasons continuously cycle one after another. Fall is coming and the weather is getting cold. A group of wild geese flying south, and this occurs years after years repeatedly. A person, from birth to death and from death to rebirth, one world after another, is always in this way from reincarnation to transmigration. He, walking and walking, seems to be moving forward, but eventually he will return to the starting point. Without the qualitative change, life can only cycle in a strange circle. To avoid moving in circles, we have to focus on truth of life and neglect the art forms of life. To understand truth, we have to be armed with the abnormal thinking. Life genuine begins with the abnormal thinking in order to guide some people that they should not return to the starting point of life, but should transit to a higher art form of life. People seem like have found truth, but the fact is not. At least we can say that 98% of the people just live in the false art world and have never touched the boundary of truth. Suspended on a cliff with a withered vine in hands, a man would instinctively try to climb up and return to the starting point. If I told him, "Let go, let yourself fall," he would think I am non-benevolent. This is the gap between Buddha and a profane man, is also a benchmark to examine the true and false. What is the truth? The origin of art form is the truth. For everything, as long as we strip off the surface and trace the source, we will eventually find out truth. In fact, the Life genuine has revealed truth before the people's visual field of spiritual sense. That truth is the greatest creator, and there is only one truth in the universe. That is the greatest creator, and except him, all the rest are his artistic expression forms. What we mean by seeking truth is to seek the greatest creator. Human beings have sought truth for thousands of years. Except having found the greatest creator, who dare say, "I have found truth," yet? To seek truth departing from the greatest creator is to make vain efforts, is to deceive oneself, and is to set bondage on human beings. Whether philosophers, thinkers, artists, politicians, scientists, religious leaders, or any other person who seek truth departing from the greatest creator, all their efforts will be in vain and false, confusing the humanity. Life genuine expounds the greatest creator with hundreds of thousands of words in order to reveal truth for human. However, when some people seeking truth get up to the God in the Bible is not the real greatest creator, they are confused. It is difficult for them to accept when their inherent thinking pattern is overturned, and so they wanted to return to the starting point. It's just like a man who hanging from a cliff with a withered vine. He desperately wants to seize the withered vine and unwilling to let it go. As a result, he cannot climb up the cliff, nor can he get down on the ground, so he can only swing in the air. I get a range out of you crosswise, but a summit sidewise. Different visages, from near or far, from low or high. The Bible, the Quran and Tao Te Ching, the Buddhist scriptures, science, Marxism, Mao Zedong thought as such can only see either a ridge or a peak, either a distance view or see a close shot. Only organically integrating these fragments which are seen from different profiles, we can see a probable panorama of truth. If we just grasp a part of it and then attack the rest, this is just like the blind men feel an elephant, which can only leave us far from truth. To seek truth and preserve truth is completely different from playing the concept game or moralization. It involves the life trend of each person. The water without a source is bound to dry up. A tree without root is bound to corrupt. The heart without soul is bound to die. A man without telegnosis is bound to transmigrate in a fixed circle again and again. Truth is the key elements in the core value of human nature. Without truth, the person will be short of human nature. A man cannot have a perfect human nature if he does not have the greatest creator in his mind, because his brutish nature may break out at any time to harm others and nature. Is it possible to have a good future if a man is without human nature? It is just a daydream. Someone will inevitably argue, the ideas of Xiefeng are all rubbish, nonsense and fart because some senior officials and millionaires never worship the greatest creator, but live a more elegant and pleasant life than those who worship the greatest creator. That is right. There are a lot of things in this world that can be easily mixed the false with the genuine, but we have to understand, the smaller the specific gravity, the easier of floating and fluttering. For a plant, the faster of growing, the shorter of lifespan. The smaller of energy, the easier of taking shape. The more of the gain, the greater of the loss, the more enjoyment in this life, the more miserable in afterlife. We often praise that the masterwork of art is very lifelike, but we never say that the masterwork of art is truth, because art is just a metamorphosis of truth. We praise all the scientific achievements are very close to truth, but we never dare to say that scientists have found truth, because science is just one way to seek truth. We praise some people are immortals, saints, but we definitely dare not say that they are the embodiment of truth, because the component part of maintaining truth and safeguarding truth in their humanity is just a little more than that in the common peoples. Is everything we can see real? For an instant, the discrepancy has been more than 100,000 miles. Everything has changed in a blink. Is it true? Truth is invariable, and the variant is not truth. It's better for us to put more component part of truth in our human nature. 2.
维护艺术形态有序和谐的机制就是善。
To maintain the orderly and harmonious mechanism of the art form is goodness. The entire material world is the artistic expression form of the recessive truth, goodness and beauty, while the mechanism that safeguards these art forms to be orderly and harmonious is goodness. Without goodness, everything would be unordered, inordinate, ugly, unharmonious, and unbearable. The greatest creator designs the order of the universe in accordance with the law of supreme goodness. If we observe the world around us carefully, it is not difficult to find the orderliness and concordance of the big world. Voluminous celestial bodies run harmoniously without hindering others. Atmosphere and atmospheric composition of the different gases coexist together and form a harmonious whole. Oceans, rivers, lakes, and streams locate in their own position and coexist harmoniously on the earth. Mountains, valleys, plains, and hills and harmoniously constitute a beautiful landscape painting. The underground microorganisms, the insects and animals on the ground, fish in rivers and lakes and birds flying in the sky all coexist harmoniously in a total vertical crossing living space for life, which is a masterpiece of the great goodness, is the ideal and state of the goodness. For the individual of human members, the desire and behavior of trying to keep the harmonious mechanism of the big world and maintain the orderliness and concordance between oneself with the surrounding life and the ecological environment where life depends on our goodness. Specifically speaking, all the mentality that is full of the reverence to the greatest creator, the reverence for life and the reverence to nature is goodness. All the conducts that try to safeguard the greatest creator, to maintain order, to love life and protect nature are goodness. To examine human, Chinese ethic people as an example, according to the law of goodness, order, and harmony, we can find some unkindness in our desires and behaviors. Looking back the history, we will find those emperors who did not awe God or heaven were unkind, and there would be the frequent disasters, social unrest, the rampant robbers, the ubiquitous complaints, and the unable surviving masses when those emperors governed kingdoms. On the contrary, if emperors awed God and heaven, there would be good weather, all things prosperous, honesty prevailing throughout society, people living happily, social harmony and peace. This indicates that good pratyaya grows good fruit and bad pratyaya results in evil consequence. Comparing the leaders of the two countries, China and the United States, we find a phenomenon of a good and evil retribution. U.S. presidents, in the oath of office, always place himself humbly under the greatest creator, and the result is that the U.S. economy develops rapidly with social prosperity, the people affluence and everyone feeling happy. In view of China, the previous leaders, in their minds, arrogantly placed themselves in the position of being a savior and never believed in the greatest creator, and the result is the suppression of human nature, the suppressed human rights, freedom giving way to power, terror haunting around. In view of the recent facts, the suppression on the personages of democracy and freedom, the rights deprivation on the religion believers, the flagrant violations on the national people's property, the indifference and control on the petitioners highlighted non-goodness of the Chinese leaders and the unkindness of the government conduct. Economic development and material wealth cannot conceal the the essence of unkindness. There are always some people who think it is big goodness to solve the subsistence problem. In fact, the problem of food belongs to the property of animals, and there are the elements of free speaking and free pouring in the property human. If people have lost the right of freely expression their ideals, beliefs, thoughts, lost the right to move freely, and then the whole implication of goodness is just regarded as the food problem, then what is the difference between human beings with the animal in a cage? I raised 2 dogs and I fed them enough meat, food and pure clean water pumped from the well every day. I also allowed them to run and chase and scrupulous on the evergreen lawn surrounded by trees. Could it be said that my 2 big dogs have shared human rights? No, it is just the dog rights at most. Who think it is big goodness to solve the subsistence problem. In fact, the problem of food belongs to the property of animals, and there are the elements of free speaking and free pouring in the property human. If people have lost the right of freely expression their ideals, beliefs, thoughts, lost the right to move freely, and then the whole implication of goodness is just regarded as the food problem, then what is the difference between human beings with the animal in a cage? I raised 2 dogs and I fed them enough meat, food and pure clean water pumped from the well every day. I also allowed them to run and chase and scrupulous on the evergreen lawn surrounded by trees.